Hello, my friend, and welcome to the 402nd episode of a sales podcast. I'm Wes Schaefer, the Sales Whisperer, your host. Today we have Dr. Cindy McGovern. We're talking about how every job is a sales job, and that is true. And if you don't believe that, this podcast is for you. You would be amazed at how many people think they're not in sales or what they do doesn't impact sales, doesn't impact the company. You are 100% wrong, and we talk about that in this episode. So stay tuned. If you missed the last one, we had Chris Spurvey on. Really cool guy from the very northeastern part of North America. It was crazy. I had to Google it, man. I had to look it up. And I was a geography major, but I kind of knew where it was. But super smart guy, started a business, grew it to 70, got bought out, stuck around. Now he's doing coaching and consulting. But the wisdom that he shared, it was one of my favorite episodes. We went almost an entire hour, and I just stopped it, just like being at the seafood all-you-can-eat buffet. It's like, I just got to stop, all right, because I'm just going to gorge myself. So go check him out. Jim Padilla is coming up next. Smart guy, runs an outsourced sales business. So the statistics that he shared with me and the insight that he gave on what he's seeing with his salespeople, how they're connecting with executives, it's going to improve your business. So you want to make sure and stay tuned to that. You know, you can get all these as long as you're subscribed, right? You'll get them as soon as it comes out. But I'm obviously on iTunes and Apple. It's on Google Play, TuneIn, Castbox, iHeartRadio, Spotify. There's no reason not to get it. And then the notes are always on as a blog post. And I link out to everyone. I link to their books if they have books. If they sell them on Amazon, it's an affiliate link that pays me a few nickels to put diapers on the kids. Oh, there's only one still in diapers, but only at night. Good grief. How long does this last? The last one is probably the longest one. That just shouldn't be. So can you buy some books from me? I got to buy some diapers and some whiskey. But look, the things that we talk about, I interview these folks. So like Jim, I interviewed him. The actual date was August 5th, but his episode won't go live until September 22nd. So, 6 weeks, almost 7 weeks of info, but I share that in real time in the 30-day sales growth community. It's $49.99 right now per month, no contract, 365-day money-back guarantee. So come join. All of my video content is up for the Make Every Sale program, the 30-day sales growth program, the Better Prospecting System, the 7 Deadly Sins of Selling. The only reason not to go and not to join is if you're afraid of looking in the mirror. That's the God's honest truth, because I've been there, done that. I will call out the BS. I know it because I've done it. I've lived it. Just like somebody, it's in recovery. Other former alcoholics or recovering alcoholics lead the 12-step program because they can see through the BS, because they lived through it and made it through. I've lived through the sales BS. I'm going to call you out on it. It will be uncomfortable, but I'll help you grow. That's why the money back guarantee is in there. So come join us, 30daysalesgrowth.com. You have nothing to lose but the fear of sales. Now let's bring on our guest. Dr. Cindy McGovern, all the way from San Francisco, author of the new book, Every Job is a Sales Job, How to Use the Art of Selling to Win at Work. Welcome to the Sales Podcast. How the heck are you?
I am doing fantastic. Thank you so much for having me. It is a pleasure to be here.
This is kind of ironic. I just noticed. I have two storytellers back to back. I wonder if like Saturn is in alignment with Neptune or like solar flares. Do people need to tell better stories? Is that what God is telling me?
I think there may be some of that. I think a lot of times we don't tell our stories good enough, and that's what holds us back. So I couldn't agree more. Universe is delivering to you, Wes.
Yeah. So, this is good. And, for our listeners, repetition is the key to learning or something like that.
100%.
We can hear it again. I think I just talked about this story too, but again, it bears repeating. Last week I was with a client and doing some HubSpot work and doing some sales training, and they're getting the concept of sequences and workflows and things like this. And we're talking about LinkedIn and how to communicate. And to their credit, they dove in. But it was just very corporate 101. And I'm like, dude, you got to change that up. That just ain't going to cut it. Why do we go to the facts and not telling stories? What's wrong with us?
Well, if you're not telling your story, your competition is. So you better dial it in.
I mean, why is that, right? As soon as the microphone's off, as soon as all these guys, because we went drinking several nights, all right? Nobody had a shortage of stories.
I love it.
But 9 to 5, it's like, stick up the butt, like, hello, I am a robot. Yes, I sell stuff and I will have no personality. Like, dude, why do we do that?
I think we have a misconception of what sales is a lot of times. And I kind of had that too, to be honest with you. In the beginning, I didn't want to be that icky, pushy, manipulative, pitch this, hit these bullet points. But when I realized you could sell by storytelling and you could be yourself, it really changed me. It actually changed my life because I became a salesperson. But I think you're right. We have this misconception that we must fit into some box 9 to 5, but I don't think that's true at all. I think we need to be ourselves.
But why do we lose ourselves when we put our khakis on and log into the corporate email? What happens?
I think you buy into the misconception that you have to fit into that mold. And I don't buy into that, quite frankly. I think that's part of where I broke the rules with sales, is I felt like I needed to sell that was authentic to me and it was who I am. And so I sort of, I guess, broke that rule a little bit because I didn't fit into the khakis. I wasn't a pleated khaki kind of girl.
Right. What about, though, like the employees, right? That they have to color inside the lines to a degree, but they can still add some flavor to it, right?
Absolutely. And I think that's what makes up the fun part of corporate America these days, is that color, that flavor, that individuality. We're not creating bots here. It's really about creating a culture of individuals that complement one another and row in the same boat in the same direction, but they each have their own little flair to it. I think that's hugely important.
So what are you getting at with the book? So every job is a sales job. Are you talking about every job? Marketing, engineering, operations? Are you saying accounting and finance is a sales job? There's no way. I
am saying that every job is a sales job, 100%. How do you think people get those jobs?
Well, maybe they went to college and they've got dirt on them.
It could be. So they sold them on it through blackmail.
Oh, you got me. All right.
A job is a sales process. That's all it is.
I always tell people, they're like, well, the oldest profession. I'm like, yeah, the oldest profession is sales. Okay. Because they still had to haggle on a price. Now, there may have been an eager consumer, but they still had to talk about price, location, timing, so I think sales is the oldest profession. Am I wrong?
No, I would agree with you 100%. And I would even argue that even with the oldest profession, there was competition. So you had to sell yourself against competition.
I love it. All right. So most people, there's probably not many accountants or engineers listening to this. So we'll focus on salespeople. How can they get good at this? Because it's kind of like when I work with HubSpot and other platforms, they do so much. People literally don't know what they don't know. And I'll see people buy $1,000 piece of software and they're still using it like a Rolodex in the sky. I'm like, dude, this thing can turn your air conditioning on and make your coffee for you. I mean, do you realize that? They're like, I had no idea.
Yeah.
So to tell a salesperson that's stuck in a rut, just tell stories. They don't know. I mean, how do you light that fire just to even expand their horizons to know even what's possible?
So part of it is actually overcoming your own misconceptions around that. And I call it the ick factor in the book. Even for salespeople, sometimes we have this ick factor associated with letting the veil down and truly expressing who we are and what we are and being even a little bit vulnerable with clients. And most people who aren't in a sales capacity call that ickiness. Like it's, oh, I can't ever be that salesperson of pitchy and this and that. But what's funny is when you start to address why you're afraid of that or why you don't want to let the veil down, you start to uncover who you really are, and you really start to be able to hone in on what value you provide. And I think that everybody's got their individual pieces that they bring to the table, and it helps you to then create a plan around what you want. And that's really what I talk about in the book, is getting clear on who you are, getting clear on what you want, what your hangups are, and then teaching you how to go after it. And with salespeople, what I find in most of the work that I do with them is they have a lack of a plan. They've got sort of this high level, yeah, I got that number I got to hit over there, but they haven't really worked their sales funnel. They haven't really figured out, okay, this is the story that I'm going to tell, and this is why this person's going to want to talk to me, or what's going to resonate with them. They've got to get their strategy in place first.
All right, but what do you mean by that? Get clear on who you are and what you want. Well, when I was a salesperson 10 years ago, 20 years ago in corporate America, it's like, I'm a quota-carrying salesperson, and I want you to buy something from me. I mean, can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I think it's more than that. I mean, why are you selling what you're selling? I mean, if you're there just for the paycheck, that's a different thing. That's a different motivator. And if you're there for the paycheck, then it's the fact that you want more paychecks. You want more zeros at the end of that paycheck. So then you get clear on, okay, I need to sell twice as many.
Right, but the customer doesn't care. I don't care if you have a quota. I don't care if you bought too big of a house. I don't care if your spouse got laid off. I don't care if you got kids going to college and need braces. I need a deal, right? Sharpen your pencil. I'm getting 3 bids. You know, so why does it matter what I want?
Well, I think when you get clear on what you want, it helps you to tell that story better and create an opportunity to have a conversation with that prospect or client that allows you to listen from a different space. I think a lot of times salespeople go into it with that quota in mind or with that number in mind that they have to hit, and they stop listening. And I think that's one of the most important parts of the sales process, is being able to take a step back, ask the right questions, hear where the other person's coming from, and then be able to position whatever it is you're selling as a solution to that. I mean, it's the age-old consultative sales kind of approach, but there's more to it than just that. It's really listening to who they are, where they're coming from, and why this should matter. And I think one thing that a lot of salespeople don't give themselves permission to do as well is to walk away if it's not right, because you're still creating a customer for life, even if they can't buy from you from whatever reason. You know, maybe they do need to buy their kids braces and they can't buy it today. They become a walking advertisement for the fact that you didn't push something on them that they didn't need. And so I think we have to remember we're still selling a person, whether they actually buy from us or not. You're still selling.
Right. So listening, I agree with, but how does that relate to storytelling? If I'm listening, I'm not telling you a story.
You have to listen first to be able to tell the story. So the story should pertain to what you learned first. So the way that I teach the sales process is plan, look for the right opportunity, and then establish trust by listening. And then you go into your ask, and then you go into follow up. So if you've gone in and let's say that I am meeting with a prospect for the first time, I'm not going to go into my pitch and I'm not going to go into my story. I might say a little bit on why I'm there and remind them why they agreed to meet with me. But then I'm going to ask questions, and I want to establish trust that they realize I'm not just there to get them to sign on the dotted line, that I'm there to understand what their needs are. And I'm also not going to sell them something they don't need. And I think that's really, really important. And again, I think a lot of salespeople don't give themselves permission to do that. I think we feel like we get stuck with our quota. I'm a salesperson too. Trust me, I get it. You know, we get our quota in our mind or our pipeline in our mind, but it's being able to stop, ask the right questions, and then formulate that story in a way that it's going to resonate with that individual. It's not just a pitch. There's not a one size fits all. We all know that. Nobody wants to be sold, but everybody likes to buy. So we have to invite them to buy from us.
So, all right, let me ask you this. So you said what? Plan, find the right opportunity, and there was something else, and then ask and follow up?
Plan, find the right opportunity, establish trust by listening.
Oh, yeah.
And then we ask, and then you follow up.
But I have to, like when I get my foot in the door, I'm not going to get my foot in the door by asking or listening, I should say, right? I got to have a hook of some sort that interests you, that gets things going. So
Mhm.
is it story, then listen, then story again?
I think it is because I think that's part of the planning. Because as you're planning, let's say I've got 5 prospects I'm going to meet with next week. Part of my planning process is how I've gotten in front of them to begin with. When I first started making those outbound phone calls or sending those emails, or even if it was a handwritten note, if I saw them at a networking event, I did my homework so I could craft my message on why they should bother meeting with me in the beginning and being able to differentiate myself from anybody else they might buy a similar product or service from. And I think that's the first thing, but it also comes from you knowing what you're bringing to the table and owning that. Own the fact that it's awesome. Own the fact that you're going to work harder than the competition. Own the fact that you're going to be the resource for them and put on your superhero cape. But you've got to get clear on that. So yeah, I agree. There is a story, a meeting, a listen, a story, an ask with a story probably, and even in the follow-up, there's the success story.
Yeah, I always tell people, you prove you're different by being different.
100%.
Right? Everybody's like, oh, once I get in front of a great prospect, I'm really good. I'm like, fool, your job is to get in front of that qualified prospect,
Yeah.
and you do that by being different. If your emails read the same, if your Facebook or LinkedIn messages are the same, if the voicemails you leave are the same, if the hi, how's the weather? Hi, how are you? Hi, do you have any plans for the weekend? Oh, hi, how was your weekend? Man, the week really goes by too fast, right? If you sound like everybody else, I'm going to treat you like everybody else.
Yeah. Stop pitching me in the voicemail.
So would you say instead of having an elevator pitch, you need elevator pitches?
I don't think you need pitches at all. I think you need elevator stories and invitations.
Elevator stories. So how's an elevator story different than an elevator pitch?
A pitch is designed to sell somebody something quickly and to tell them what you bring to the table. I think a story is to intrigue somebody to want to listen to more. And that's what it is. It's an invitation to dialogue. When you're truly trying to pitch someone to sit down with you, you're trying to get them to sit down and actually give you their undivided attention for a period of time. But if you can hook them with a story, if you can hook them with something that actually gains their attention and they want to learn more, you're going to get the meeting. If you pitch them in an elevator and get them to sit down with you, they're going to sit down and wait for the dog and pony show. That's not what you're there to do. You're there to create a customer for life. You're there to create a relationship with that person. Because remember, even if they don't buy you, you're creating a customer that is then going to be a walking commercial for you. So don't sell them, invite them to buy. It's something that I really, really press upon with all of our clients is you don't want to be the one that sold them. You want to be the one that partnered with them, and watch your language.
Watch your language. So no F words?
I would not recommend
like features. Unless you're Gary Vee, I can get away with it.
Yeah.
Those Jersey people. Good grief. All right, I like that. Don't sell them, invite them. And it's so funny. I had Tom Hopkins on years ago, and he was one of the first dudes I ever read in sales.
Yeah.
I was still in the Air Force. And he would say, he took the word pitch out of his vocabulary, even in golfing. He wouldn't ask for his pitching wedge. He'd ask for his presentation wedge.
Yeah, that's right. I remember
So
that.
I like to see how people respond to pitches because you're right. I hate them. And I tell people, because I never know who I'm in the elevator with, right? Now, yeah, sometimes like you can actually work it to where you get in the elevator at the exact same time as the person you're looking for. But that's a little bit stalkish, right? But people will say, what do you do? Right. And I don't know who I'm talking to. Maybe I'm talking to an HR manager. Maybe I'm talking to an event planner, and they can hire me for keynote speaking. Maybe I'm talking to a sales manager and he needs sales training. I mean, I got a few things I can offer.
Yep.
And it's like, well, I help people sell more faster at higher margin with less stress and more fun. What do you do? Right. So, I mean, I'll kind of maybe just throw some things out, kind of a broad net and see how they reply.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll tailor where the story goes based on what they say. Right. I tell people all the time, the new ABCs of selling, I think, are always be concise. It's one of them. I feel like people blab too much. Do you see that?
I do see that. And one of the other ABCs that I talk about is always be curious, because the more you ask about them, the better you're going to figure out how you can help them and what you can bring to the table if you can.
Right. Yeah, I cringe the old, always be closing. Coffee is for closers. Like, I mean, I love the movie,
Yeah, it's a good one.
but I mean, it's literally that concept literally dates back about 60 years.
Yep.
When you look at like that movie came out in the early 90s based on a Broadway play, right, from the 80s, which he worked on in the 70s based on watching his dad sell, I think, real estate in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, it's going on 60 years and people still think that's the truth. Why do bad ideas live for so long?
Because we perpetuate them. I mean, think about it. Like that was part of my misconception on sales too, is my idea of selling before I got into it was sort of the Johnny Two Thumbs approach where, he's coming at you at the used car lot, like, hey, what's it going to take to get you in the car? And I thought, oh my gosh, like there's no way I can ever sell that way. That's not who I am. I don't want to be that. And so we perpetuate those stereotypes, which I think is also what gives sales a bad rap. And I guarantee there's listeners today that have people on their team they're trying to get to sell, even though they may not necessarily be officially salespeople. They're customer service people or support teams. And part of the challenge is you've got to help those folks get over that ick factor of selling so they can feel comfortable telling their own story around what they bring to the table, because they obviously think they need to be Johnny Two Thumbs to be able to sell. And that's not true at all. You need to be you to be able to sell and find common ground with folks you're trying to help.
Hey, look, it's 2019, all right? It's Joni Two Thumbs, all right? Stop beating up Johnny.
Fair enough.
So how did you get non-traditional salespeople on board with this concept that they are also in sales?
So that is most of the work that I do is helping managers and leaders to embrace that and create that sales culture. And much like you, it's the focus of trying to help people grow, but get everybody rowing in that same direction. And the number one thing you've got to do is stop pushing that rock uphill and address the fact that everybody thinks it's icky. And until you do that, you're going to keep pushing that rock uphill. You're going to keep saying, oh, well, we're going to do this and we need you to sell and we need you to go to do that. They're sitting there going, that's them, not me. I don't want to be that, and I can't be that. But the truth of the matter is, every single person on this planet sells, and every single person on this planet is good at it because they were 5 once. You got 7 kids. You know this. Kids are the best salespeople on the planet. Agreed?
Amen.
And so we've all got that inner 5-year-old in us. We all did it at some point. It's helping your teams to tap back into that and realize they already do sell every day. They just don't call it sales. They call it convincing or persuading or getting their kid to eat broccoli. It's still sales, whatever you call it.
Yeah. Great, Dr. Cindy. But, I'm in accounting. This really doesn't apply to me and because it's icky. So you haven't sold me. So, and what does this have to do with broccoli? You lost me.
So if you're a parent and trying to get your kids to eat vegetables, you're selling them on that idea. And
but you know what? I control their lives. I brought this into the world. And you know what? I can turn off their Wi-Fi password. They have to listen to me.
That's still a negotiation. It's still sales.
I don't negotiate with my little children. I'm the boss. I tell them, turn the TV off. No more ice cream. No more iPads. Yeah. I can't tell my customer that.
Well, no, you can't. Well, maybe. It depends on the customer. No, I think the guy in accounting or the gal in accounting, part of the challenge is helping them to understand how it fits into their day-to-day. I mean, let's just take, for instance, maybe that person in accounting is working with the sales team trying to get them to get their expense reports in on time. We're all in sales. We're on the road. We're not getting our stuff to our folks in time. They have to sell them on the idea of why they need to do that. It's still a negotiation. It's still sales. It's just called convincing or persuading.
Right. Yeah. I have a pipeline. I call it my dating equals selling pipeline. There's all these stages. I mean, even if you've never asked anyone out on a date, someone has probably asked you out on a date.
Yeah.
They've asked you to dance. I mean, it's all, how do you present yourself? It's all, and you got to follow certain steps. You can skip a couple steps, but you can't skip too many. Otherwise you're going to get in trouble. Right. But they just don't realize it. So So can someone in accounting or HR or operations, can they read this book and improve, have a noticeable improvement in their work-life balance?
They can, but they have to be clear on who they really are, and they have to really take the steps in chapter 1, which is the planning phase, seriously, and be honest about what they want to do. And I mean, I would argue that every single person on this planet is selling 24/7 because you're selling your own personal brand. So even if they're not, let's say they are truly in a corner with an abacus, not interacting with another human, they're still selling to keep that job. They're still selling to get a good review from their manager. They're still selling, there is some selling going on every day. But I think what we've got to do is help people to get over that ick factor and help them feel empowered to use the skills of sales pros and realize that they're all around you. I mean, that's the other thing that's so fascinating. Like, I never wanted to be in sales. I've fought against it. I railed against it. And then realized, man, I got to learn how to sell or I'm going to get fired, kind of thing. And so I started reading books, I started talking to folks and had to make it work for me. But in doing that, I had this revelation where I went, hold on a second. I literally have been doing this. I just didn't call it that. And then when I started to realize that I could do it, it was kind of fun because my brand of selling is helping other people. You're the same way. It's very much about finding a way to help others in some way, shape, or form. And it's a bit addicting. I'm a bit of a helpaholic. It's fun to do that. And I think humans want to help other people for the most part. And that's what you're going to learn in this book, is really how you can use those skills to get ahead yourself, but it's also helping somebody else. Nobody does this alone. I think that's the biggest misconception. Nobody does this life alone. So help others, they'll want to help you.
Yeah, but you know what? My boss is just a jerk. I'm very skilled at my abacus. I went to a lot of training. I watch a lot of YouTube videos. Nobody can work this abacus like me, and I'm just not appreciated. So I don't know. I think this is wrong. I think you got it all wrong, Doc. No, selling is not for the abacus, pocket protecting wearing people. I'm not sold.
Fair enough. So my invitation to you would be, are you clear on what you want in your career and in your life? And I would invite you to explore that. And then I would invite you to look at if this career path that you're on right now is helping you to get closer or further away from that. Because my guess is it's getting you further away because you've kind of got those blinders on of, this is my abacus, don't touch it. This is what I do, versus looking at how you could actually expand that horizon. And I see that a lot with folks who feel maybe underappreciated in their job. They're not realizing the personal brand that they're selling. They're not realizing that maybe their attitude is actually what's holding them back, or the way people are perceiving them. Their self-awareness needs to be raised. So I think that's a big piece of it. And in fact, I've got a bonus chapter that I wrote on personal branding. So I think that is a huge part of this, but it starts with that self-awareness piece. You've got to be honest about who you are and what you want, create that plan to go get it.
Are you saying I shouldn't wear so much Axe body wash? Are you saying that's impacting my performance reviews at work?
If you are working at Abercrombie and Fitch, probably not. It's probably helping. Know your audience. It works well there.
Good point. I like it. Yeah, I love that. How much do you feel underappreciated? And my note here was, how much of that is on you?
Yeah.
Right? We never want to take responsibility. It's always someone else's fault. And I mean, it's like, it's prevalent in society now, this victim mentality. It's like, really? Okay, I understand. Things aren't perfect. They could always be better. But are they better today than they were yesterday? And are we on the right track? It's everybody's like, oh, woe is me. And I don't know. That's never very appealing. But I mean, all right. So what if times are tough? What if business is tough, competition's tough, there's tariffs and it's impacting our supplier and costs are going up and our customers, it's out of my control, these tariffs. And it's just, we should all be angry and upset and concerned and worried. And there's no room there to be chipper and happy. I mean, I got to get back to my abacus.
So you can, that's a choice. And I don't want to paint this as, roses and unicorns here, but I think it's a choice of how you view it and whether it's from a place of scarcity or whether it's from a place of abundance. And I choose to look at it from a place of abundance that, hey, Maybe you're not going to get that raise today, but you can certainly negotiate for it next year. You can certainly start laying the groundwork to be able to negotiate. I tell a story in the book about a gal who, it's a true story of a client of mine, and she wanted a raise this year. They could not give it to her. It just was not in the budget. She ended up negotiating and got a whole lot more than she would have gotten just in a 1-year raise because she sold them on it. And I think it's the way that you look at the entire picture. But if you look at this and you say, okay, everything is kind of crap today because there are tariffs, there's this, there's not enough business, there's not enough, the market is dry, whatever it is, look at that situation and see, okay, what options do I have? I can sit here and I can complain about it, or I can try to sell my way around it. Maybe one of the things that you're going to sell is the fact that you were there through that hard time, and that's going to help you next year. Maybe you can sell the fact that you were one of the morale leaders during this tough time when everybody was woe is me. That's hugely valuable to a leader within an organization. Own it, sell it, but you got to know how to sell it.
It's not obvious. I mean, if everybody's woe is me and I'm smiling and not complaining, is that a good boss would notice that?
You're giving your boss too much credit. And I think that happens a lot. I think people think that it's like companies that think, they're customer service people. They think their service speaks for themselves. Well, what I tell my customers is your service isn't speaking loud enough. Service is the expectation. For you to come to work with a somewhat smile on your face is kind of the expectation. You're not supposed to come in as a negative Nelly. So you got to do more. You got to show what that's doing for the rest of the team. You got to show that you're leading this and trying to bring the morale of the group up. Don't leave it to your boss to look at it. And that's another story in the book where there's a guy who is underappreciated at work and he keeps selling his boss on, but I do all this. I basically hit the mark and you should notice. No, it's not his job to notice. It's our job to be noticed. And I think people have to recognize that.
Isn't that brown nosing?
No, I don't think it is. I think it is if you're doing it inauthentically, for sure. I think if you're going in there and just saying, oh, well, let me help you with this, blah, blah, blah. But I think if you're showing that this is who you truly and authentically are, and you really want to help because you care about this company, you care about the future, you care about having a job next year. Let's be honest about that. That's a huge piece. I don't brown nose. I don't believe in it. I don't sell that way. I don't want people to sell that way. I want you to come at this authentically. And if you're having a rough day, that's fine. But if you're going to come in and choose to have a rough day every day, that is going to affect your colleagues. It's like the salesperson that comes from that place of scarcity. I'm never going to hit the mark. Nobody's going to buy from me. Well, you know what? That's probably true then.
Yeah. Change
your thought process.
Right. Exactly. Everybody's walking around with that resting bitch face, they call it, right?
Yes.
It's like, how you doing? I'm good. You might want to tell your face, but.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I digress.
People do business with people they like. Be somebody people want to be around. It's pretty simple.
So who brings you in? Is it the operations manager? Is it the CEO? Sales, all the above?
It's all of the above. It depends on the organization. So, if it's a law firm, it's usually the partners. If it's a sales organization or technology company, it's probably sales or HR. If it's an insurance firm, it's, the principals. It just depends on who it is. But it's basically the person or persons who want to grow the business and have recognized that they want help in that.
Right.
And then we have a conversation and we see if there's a fit. Because I will be honest with you, not everybody is a fit.
Right. Do you get into like customer service? Does it spill over into that, or is it kind of an overlay of everything?
We spill over into that, but we call it sales because service is an expectation. I expect that you get it right. I expect that you do it with somewhat of a smile. It's the fact that you want to service them so well, they want to come back and you need to ask them to come back. So we actually take that service level and kind of bump it up a bit and help people to recognize. That's kind of step 2 is looking for those opportunities. We teach people how to look for that opportunity to create a real moment that's going to matter to that customer and then be able to say, hey, we'd love for you to come back. So it's not just a throwaway thank you or a throwaway come back again. It's truly an interaction that's created an opportunity for that customer to walk away with a great story to tell about their interaction.
Right. Yeah, 'cause There's huge opportunity. I remember the first thing I had to do in the summer of 2000. I just started with this technology company, and there was a recall. So like, hello, welcome aboard. Call these like 50 customers, and this was like a multi-$1,000, $10,000 to $40,000 testing unit. Oof. They're like, you got to tell them that the stuff's broken. But they had demo units, loaners, blah, blah, blah. So it was really handled very well.
Nice.
And because we were able to handle it well, yeah, some were upset, but really, we didn't lose any customers. I think we gained customers because we handled the dilemma well. And that's that whole, is this an opportunity or is it an obstacle? Mm-hmm. And so, but I mean, I was in sales, but I think that company at the time was really focused on selling and service. They had a very good name. So that was nice, but I think that's kind of rare today. But what about when there's an angry customer, right? How much abuse should someone take? And is it ever okay to just tell the customer to go pound sand?
Yeah, it absolutely is. I won't tolerate that. You can't speak to my staff that way. You can't speak to our team. Like, absolutely not. Like, there is no tolerance for just meanness. But I do think a lot of times when folks are in that space of meanness and their, mean streak is a half a mile wide, it's because they feel like they're not being heard. And they've been passed around to 19 different people. I mean, we've all been on the receiving end of that, right? Like, you're changing something with your cable or your credit card or an airline, and you're on person number 7 and you're telling the story again of what's wrong. You get a little frustrated. And part of the reason is because people just don't feel like they're being heard. And I think if you can help that person realize that you are trying to help them. You do want to hear what's going on, and being able to try to do what you can to fix it, you might get a little further. But I absolutely think it's okay to sometimes just walk away. And it's okay to fire customers sometimes, because no matter what you're going to do, you're not going to be able to solve their problems. You're not going to be able to make them happy. And they're out there telling your story. And that's not the story you want being told about you. Right. So I think that's absolutely okay at times, for sure.
Can I get you in at my local DMV?
Love to get my hands on all of them.
I'm going to pay for you to come visit. All right.
I would love it.
Can I get you to go see my VA office?
Yeah.
Don't even. My blood pressure's going up. I think I got to call my doctor. I got to go.
Breathe.
All right, Doc. Where do we send people? Your book is coming out when? What's the date?
September 17th, but we've got a bunch of cool pre-launch stuff that we're doing, and your listeners can go to drcindy.com, and there's a bunch of info there, and we've got a bunch of pre-launch specials where they're going to get some fun goodies if they were to get the book before launch day, and I would love to be able to help them. And I want to just mention one quick thing that you had said, it's an opportunity or an obstacle. That's exactly what I'm talking about with the difference between the choices of scarcity or abundance. And I think the way you handled that was genius. You looked at the time that it matters is when everything falls apart. Everyone in an organization has a chance to sell in that moment, because it truly is all hands on deck.
Right.
Whatever your role is, the guy with the abacus to everybody else.
Right.
That's what I want to empower people to do with this book. This is a book I wish I had 25 years ago, honestly. If I had, it would have saved me a lot of figuring out.
Right.
So it's a lesson you learned, and I want to just help other people be able to learn that and create the life they want at work and be able to get ahead.
So how's Florida State going to be this year? Are they going to win?
Lord, I hope so. I was there during all the good times, the Charlie Ward, the Bobby Bowden era. I was there during that. So, yeah.
So you left and they fell. Why'd you leave?
No, that's not it.
Why you got to be like that? Why you got to take your good luck with you?
Oh man, I hope not. I love those folks. I just hope they have a good year. They will. Fingers crossed. All right,
I should have asked this at the beginning, but what the heck is organizational communication? PhD in organizational communication. Can you?
It's kind of a wacky one. It's a third business, a third communication, and a third psychology. So it's basically that I diagnose people as it pertains to the organization, not like a therapist or something like that. And it's sort of the MBA type classes, but without the MBA label on it. It's being able to really look at an organization holistically, look at their people, look at the behaviors within the organization, and be able to help them communicate better. And my lane of communication happens to be growth and sales.
So it's business, psychology, and communication?
Basically, yep.
Cool. All right. Now we know. All right. Dr. Cindy McGovern, all the way from San Francisco. I'm going to send you my son's info. He's couch surfing up there looking for work. So can you like throw like a Subway sandwich or something at him when you see him on the street corner?
We can have him over for dinner.
Nice.
We'll take care of him.
All right. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
All right. Have a great day.
You too.
Focus on the opening. Prove you'll work harder by opening better. Elevator stories versus elevator pitches. Gotta love it. Johnny Two Thumbs selling method. I love it. Stop pushing the rock uphill. As soon as I wrap this up, I'm heading to jiu-jitsu and learning leverage, learning how to manipulate the angle, how to anticipate where the opponent is going so I don't have to use so much effort is key. That's how I'm able to train 5 and 6 days a week. Yeah, I'm sore and tired, but I'm not crushed like I used to be because I'm using my brains more and my body less. You need to do the same thing in sales. People are very predictable. Once you understand just how predictable they are, your sales and business life will change forever for the better. So get her book. I link to it in the show notes on the episode. And then join the 30-day sales growth program. Let me help you relax. Let me help you sell more, faster, at higher margin with less stress and more fun. It doesn't have to be such a grind. You don't have to be so alone. I've been there, done that. Let me help you through it. I lowered the price because I want more people to join. I don't want cost to be an issue, but you've got to pay something or you won't appreciate it. Okay? Come join us, 30daysalesgrowth.com. Now go sell something.